And we're joined by Gaelene Askeland, the Executive Director of the Journey Home Society. So it's been a very interesting few weeks with residents in the area where this McCurdy Rd project will be built in great numbers and quite angrily opposed to what you're doing there. What's your reaction when you see and read what's being said about this project?
I think my strongest reaction is just sadness that we have, that there's so much fear there that I think once the building is built and it's housed and it's settled into the community, it has the opportunity, all of our supportive housing has an opportunity to really contribute to their communities and not be the places of fear that seem to be kind of the biggest top of mind thing. The folks that live in supportive housing are just like anyone else, and they are happy to have housing. They're happy to be inside, happy to have a door to close and people there to support them and walk alongside them. And it's housing. It's housing like any other housing, and we all need to be in community and have the opportunity to be a part of a broader community.
Right. People are opposed to it for a number of reasons. One is that there's schools nearby, and people don't like the idea of their children literally rubbing shoulders with people who are continuing to use drugs.
Well, the people, supportive housing is not just for people who use drugs. There's lots of people who live in supportive housing that need that for other things, brain injury, other types of brain injuries that don't necessarily come from a trauma. People who live with mental health issues, people who are just struggle with day-to-day life and need that extra support. So there are some people who use substances that live in supportive housing, and there are many that do not. But I think proportionately, our folks live in community anyway. So they're living in our community, whether they're living on the street or living in housing that is dangerous for them or unhealthy for them. So creating an environment that is safe, managed well, and creates an environment where they're encouraged to be inside and learn to feel again what that feels like and really stabilize and choose to participate in community again. That's the benefit to everyone in society. I don't think that there's any more danger to children walking down the street in front of supportive housing than it is any other kind of housing. We have people who use substances in every part of our community, and they're close to schools and they're not close to schools. So
it seems when you listen to the people who oppose projects like this, they say that there should be no drugs permitted on site. So let me put the question to you this way. Make the argument for this harm reduction model where people who are gripped by addiction can access housing and can continue to use inside the facility. Why is that the way to go?
If you've never been homeless, it's really hard to even process how much chaos that creates in a life. So for us, when it's housing first and we're harm reduction focused, housing first means housing first. And the supports that come along with that. It's not housing first and that's it. It's housing first along with the supports that go with it. And creating the stability for people. You can't make choices about how to clean up or even imagine what life could be like when you're living in a homeless shelter or living outside. So for us, creating that stability for people and enabling them to see that there's other choices that can be made, providing them the community, providing caring staff, providing mental health and substance use clinicians to engage with them, bringing in home care, making sure that if they've got physical needs, that the wound care and diabetes management and all of that, we're creating that with supportive housing, and that's what people are going to bring their addiction with them. Doesn't mean it's going to stay with them.
Well, let me ask you then, are people who have gained access to housing like this, among those who come to it with an addiction, are some of them getting themselves into treatment and making positive changes in their lives? Is that really happening?
Yeah, we've got people, again, it depends on where that person is in their trajectory of their own life. We have people in shelters who choose to stop using. And imagine how difficult that is when you're in a shelter where there's lots of people who are using. So creating space for them to bring everything that's going on for them into their new housing, and then having the opportunity to, again, stabilize, put their 2 feet on the ground, work through a wellness plan, actually start thinking about what can be different and thinking about what that means, how to do that. People who get stuck in addiction get stuck in this place where they just hate themselves. The self-loathing and the things that come along with being stuck in an addiction, regardless of what that addiction is too. If you spend any time reading Gabor Mate, who's a doctor who has done a lot of addictions work, it can be food, it can be shopping, it can be like addictions, not just your typical alcohol and drugs, but people who want treatment, people who move into supportive housing have already made a commitment that they want to do something different with their lives. So is that going to be within the first couple of weeks? Probably not. Just like all of us, it takes time to process through how we want to make changes to our lives. How many times do people try and quit smoking? Right. It can be multiple times.
I don't think I imagine that everyone is going to be a great success story, but at least to know that
successes.
But at least to know that there are some successes that will be happening in that building.
Absolutely, and the chances for success are so much higher when they do have support, and they do have staff who care about them, and organizations that are really good at doing this stuff, actively managing day to day on site.
How do you feel though when you hear that they were able to get 13,000 people to sign a petition saying that building as planned, shouldn't go ahead?
It makes me sad. We have so much more housing and plans to try and end homelessness. I think everybody agrees that we shouldn't have people who are homeless in our community. But that takes a whole community effort. We have to have housing. We have to have housing for everybody. Other poor people who are not necessarily homeless but right on the edge, we need to have affordable housing for them. That needs to go somewhere. We need housing for middle-aged families. We need middle-income families. We need housing that's safe for seniors. We need all of that in our community. We need more of all of that. So we need supportive housing as well. We need more of it. It needs to be everywhere.
It sounds like you're undeterred, that even though you'll be taking a lot of arrows along the way, that this society will continue to push for more of this kind of housing until everyone can get a roof over their head.
Well, the Journey Home strategy is a 5-year strategy to address the homelessness that we have going on here. It's not unlike many other strategies in other communities that have been faced with the same thing. There's other pieces to it. We need to create prevention programs or expand the prevention programs that we have so that we can catch people before they actually lose their homes, find those folks, make sure that they have the resources they need to stay in their homes. Folks that do end up being homeless for whatever reason, relationship breakdown, rent eviction, we get that a lot right now. I've been given my month's notice and I have no idea where I'm going to go and I can't afford anything that I can see out there. Catch those folks and divert them into housing. But that means we need housing. Or rent subsidies that are coming from different government levels to help people get into, that $1,200 for one-bedroom apartment that seems to be what we can get in Kelowna now. So we've got lots of those strategies that have to come into play as well. Working with Interior Health and mental health, the new Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, They have a new strategy that's come out, so there will be funding coming into our community to provide some of that counseling, so the trauma counseling that comes along with withdrawal services and treatment. If we're not also treating that trauma, we're not helping people get down to the root of what's going on for them. So all of those things are part of our strategy. All of those things have to happen. They kind of all have to happen at the same time. So we're working with the different levels of government to try and get those things going. It's not a 6-month process. You know what governments are like. They have funding cycles, and we're working at helping to get them focused on what they need to do for this next funding cycle. Reaching Home is a federal strategy to end homelessness, so we have that funding coming into our community as well. So I think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic that over the 5 years, hopefully less than that, I would love for us to be able to say in 3 years we've solved it all and we have no, it's functional zero, that we have housing for the people that need it. It might be 5, but we're hoping that it's 3. And, you know, it doesn't negate the fact that people are scared. It does look scary. But it's less scary the more that we can integrate people into the community and get them back to or into being the productive folks that we all want them to be, that they want to be, as healthy as they can be with the brains that they have. And all of us have our stuff. And some of us have more stuff than others. And some of us with all that stuff have it for a really darn good reason, because, you know, if you spend any time with some of our folks, the things that they have been through that have gotten them to that place are quite terrifying. And to help them get past that and learn to believe in themselves again and have other people believe in them, that's what makes the difference. And that's what we need to provide.
Gaelene Askeland, Executive Director of the Journey Home Society, thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming down today.